Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about how to live an empowered life and how to really take back control over your life, over your choices, over your emotions, over your decisions, and really take back your power because you've always had power, but you just have to reclaim it. So without further ado, let's get into it. My first tip is to drop the victim mindset. If you ever have a victim mindset, you're never going to feel like you are in control of your life. Like if you constantly are thinking, why did this happen to me? Why did that happen to me? Why did this person break up with me? Why did I lose this job? You're gonna feel like subconsciously you're training your brain that you don't have any control. Like a bunch of things are coming at you and you don't have any control, and that's not true. When you start flipping the script and thinking, why did this happen to me, to why is this happening for me, then you're training your brain and your subconscious mind to think, oh, this is happening for me, like this is good for me. You're automatically putting yourself above the obstacle. Like, why is this happening to me? You're taking back control over life, over that situation. And really, like, life is all about mindset. I'm going to get into that in a second, but it just trains your brain to start thinking like, why is this happening for me? What can I do from this? And when you start thinking, why is this happening for me? You automatically are able to just take back power. You're going to be thinking differently and you're going to be taking different actions, like from more of an empowered mindset. The other thing I'm going to say is radical responsibility. Honestly, this whole entire theory just like changed my whole life. Once you take responsibility over your life, you're going to have power. Okay, because have you ever heard the quote, with great power comes great responsibility? Well, with great responsibility comes great power. Like they're linked. Literally, as soon as you like start thinking this way, you're going to feel like way more ownership over your life and you're going to have a sense of control because it's a trick that people are telling on you, like, oh, you don't have control of your life. You can't do this, you can't do that. But once you start taking responsibility, even for the smallest things, for example, like you could be thinking, oh, like why were these people so mean to me? Or you could be thinking, you know what? Like that's my responsibility. I made myself be around these people. Like I didn't have to be around these people. You see how different those two stories are in your life? Like if you start thinking and viewing everything in the lens of this is my responsibility, it's going to force you to take more action and be more responsible about your life because it's true. Everything in life is your responsibility. Like whatever card of hands you were dealt, you were dealt. So you have to take ownership and you have to work with what you have. So you can't really blame others or blame your parents or blame the school or blame the government. At the end of the day, you made that choice. Just thinking that way makes you feel way more empowered and feel way more in control. Like everything in your life, like you can control. Like about you. You can control your mindset, you can control what you think about, you can control your posture, which posture helps to make you feel more confident, and you can control your actions and your emotions, right? So you have control over everything. So there's no point in blaming someone else, like blaming, oh my God, like why are these people so mean? Well, you know what? You don't have to be around mean people. You don't have to stay in toxic relationships. You don't have to be with low vibrational people. That's your choice. You decided to be around these people, but you can take yourself out of that equation whenever you want. So it's the same thing with anything in life. You just always have to remember to always take responsibility. Other thing I'm going to say is, along with the responsibility is your mindset. Literally, you need to have a good mindset about your life because life is literally just a story, right? You have to have a good story that you're telling about yourself, about your life, because that's what's gonna keep you moving forward. And everything in life is an experience. It's neutral. It's just the way that we view things and the story that we have in our minds or the lens in which we're viewing the world that's changing the narrative of this experience. But in theory, everything is neutral. Things are just happening. Everything is just happening. And once you change or take control over the story that you're telling yourself, that's when your whole life changes. Like you can either look at things as glass half full or glass half empty. And I noticed that the difference between successful people and not successful people is the stories that they tell themselves. So, for example, there could be like two types of people, but they both failed at the job, they both failed at a business, they both got into breakups, whatever the case may be. But One person who has a positive story saying, you know what, like I learned something from this experience and I'm going to keep on going. Having a positive storyline about where you are, where you're going is going to allow you to keep on going and go from one failure to the next failure to the next failure, because you're not seeing it as a failure. You're seeing it as, oh, I learned something from this experience. God is blessing me. God taught me something, or the universe taught me something. And you're going to keep on going. And the fact that you are even keeping on going is what's leading you towards success, right? Then there's another person who views their failure as, oh my God, I failed. I should have never tried. Like, this was so dumb. This was so stupid. I'm never going to try doing this again. And that person just stops because of the storyline that they're telling you, that they're telling themselves, the lens in which they're viewing their life. When in reality, everything in life is neutral. We are the ones who are saying this is positive or this is negative. You don't know if something is good or bad. Like, you really do not know that. You don't know if that job is good for you, if that person is good for you. And so often in my life, whenever I wanted something like a job or money, and I was working for it, and there was obstacle over obstacle over obstacle, hindsight, I look back and I say, I am so grateful that this didn't happen at that period of my life, because it would have been a disaster. Like, God was protecting me. So you don't know where God is protecting you or the universe is protecting you in your life. Like, you really don't know. Humans have such like a narrow perspective on their own lives, and like the universe sees everything. So trust that everything is always working out for you, and always have a good story that you're telling, because at the end of the day, you are the creator of your own reality, and you are the own creator of your story. So why are you going to be giving yourself a bad story? Give yourself a good story, because you deserve it. Another thing that I just think of when I think of storytelling is how much our perception and our mindset and the stories that we tell ourselves affects our life. We all know of the band Metallica. There is this guy in Metallica. Let me look up his name. Give me 1 second. Dave Mustaine. He was in one of the original founding members of Metallica. He ended up leaving before the band got really, really big. And literally Metallica blew up. It's one of the biggest like rock bands. And so he was just like, you know what? I'm going to create my own rock band to kind of compete with Metallica. So he created his own rock band called Megadeth, and it was extremely successful, right? When you're looking at it, they sold 20 million records, 6 platinum albums, super successful, but it wasn't as successful as Metallica. Metallica was still like #1. And so this guy, Dave, the whole entire time, he's thinking, I failed. I literally failed. I literally failed. Like, I'm not as good as Metallica. But that's only because of his mindset, like, and his perspective. From an outsider's perspective, we see a super musician, once sold 20 million records, has 6 platinum records. That's an amazing accomplishment. But to him, and the story that he's telling himself, is that I failed. I didn't do good enough because I'm not as big as Metallica. Like, I'm not bigger than them. They still beat me. Like, you see how much the story that you tell yourself and your perspective just like changes your life, and it changes your world, because these things are neutral. He's the one who's saying that I'm not good enough. I still failed. When probably a lot of logical people, or most of the world, would take a look at him and his situation and think, oh my God, man, you did great. Like, bravo, like, that's amazing. So it's the same thing about you in your life. Like, you always have to have a positive perception of your life. And another thing I'm gonna say is that people who have control over their life, they have control over the emotions. This is something I'm still honestly working on, but when you realize all of life is just an experience of emotions, it's learning how to navigate emotions and regulating them. It's a thing and a skill that a lot of people do not have. But if you know how to be stoic, how to detach, how to control your emotions in every given situation, you're going to be able to like think clearly and actually have control over your life. Because people who are reactive, or they let their emotions take over them, like, it just takes over your whole day, it takes over your whole life. So you need to be in control of your emotions. I am still working on this, but I know that it's super important. There's like a bunch of different things that you can do. You can do energy healings, like if you're angry, if you're sad, whatever it is, you can look up a Reiki healing to kind of clear that energy for you. You can do like a tapping sequence, if you heard of that, EFT tapping, but find ways where you can literally like control your emotions. Whether that's just deep breathing and like having self-control and knowing, you know what, I'm gonna deep breathe in and breathe out for like 30 seconds, a minute before I act. that's fine. But make sure that you always have control of your emotions. Otherwise, your emotions are controlling your life. You're not in the driver's seat of your life. And you always want to show up as your best self, your highest self, and not let your emotions, take control over you. Anyway, guys, I think I'm gonna keep it at that for this video, but I hope that you found this super, super helpful and that you live an empowered life.